All right, I thought we would do a standalone video on my new hunting rifle. I know what you're saying, that ain't a hunting rifle. That is a Ruger Precision rifle M308. Not known for being lightweight, but known for being very accurate. So one thing I never really liked or appreciated about hunting rifles is they seem to sacrifice accuracy for weight. So everyone's taking their hunting rifle and they do all kinds of things to make them more accurate. Well, I thought, let's do this the other way. Let's take an accurate rifle and lighten it and make it an excellent hunting rifle. Now, I think this rifle is around 10 pounds. We're going to actually, next, we're going to put it on my scale, confirm its weight. Your typical hunting rifle is, say, 7 to 8 pounds. Considered a lightweight, super lightweight hunting rifle is 5 to 6 pounds. And by the way, everything we're going to talk about is without the scope. No scope, no ammo, no magazine, none of that, just the rifle as is. So at around approximately 10 pounds, which will confirm, this would be a very heavy hunting rifle. However, I think with some machining, some engineering, and some parts, we can lighten it up. So I say the first thing we do is let's go weigh it. All right, here we have the Ruger Precision in 308 on my Fairbanks digital scale. Full disclosure, these parts right here are certain internals to the rifle, because I had already taken the rifle apart. This is actually the butt pad too. I had taken the rifle apart and put it together just for this video, and I did not feel like putting the bolt back together and all that little stuff. So that's what those are. But essentially, this is the entire rifle. If we look at the weight, that is 10.3 pounds, right on the dot. So a Ruger Precision rifle in 308 is 10.3 pounds. All right, well, there you go. As we saw, our scale showed it at 10.3 pounds. But interestingly enough, when you look on the Ruger website, it's rated at 9.8 pounds. Don't know why. We actually measured it at 10.3. That's a half a pound difference. Not sure what Ruger's doing. Of course, manufacturers have been known to sway their numbers in their favor. We're going to go, though, we're not going to go with Ruger's number. We're going to go with ours at 10.3. So what is the goal here? Let's see if I can predict this, or more of a hope. I'm going to shoot for 6.x pounds. Now, what do I mean by X? I mean that could be 6.9 or it could be 6.1, which would be phenomenal. But I could be 6.9 pounds. So I think we can do it. I think with a little bit of, like I said before, machining, parts, and some very conservative engineering to make sure we don't make this rifle dangerous, we can probably hit that mark. So let's, I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to break down this rifle into its components and take a look at each of them and see where we can save weight. All right, and there you have it. I broke the Ruger Precision rifle in 308 down into sub-assemblies that I thought made the most sense for helping us kind of visualize what needs to be done as far as removing weight from this rifle. So a couple things you're going to see right away on these is who has the most capacity to lose weight. Number one, of course, is the barrel. The barrel is 3.444 pounds. Yes, that's right. I took it to a thousandths of a pound because this is a machining channel and you should be getting used to thousandths. So there you go. And if you're metric, I apologize. I used to do a lot of work in metric and I actually like it, but here we're going to stick with imperial. So the barrel has a lot of mass that can be removed. I could cut it, I could shorten it, I could put on the lathe and taper it down thinner, definitely take off the muzzle brake, not going to need that. But I think I have another idea for that, which would be something significant as far as weight savings. Number two is the buttstock assembly at 1.600 pounds. Makes sense, this buttstock is designed to be very adjustable. Has a lot of options, a lot of mounts for accessories, for bench rest type shooting, which is what the rifle is originally made for. We don't need any of that. We can simplify this with some engineering and some lighter materials. Number 3 is what I call the lower assembly at 1.350 pounds. That includes the rear assembly that, or this rear section that lets the stock fold and all the hardware. That one I'm not sure. We can do some, probably just going to do some machining on the parts to remove material and maybe add some titanium fasteners, I'm thinking. Number 4 actually, and they're almost tied, it's almost tied with number 3, is the receiver at 1.325 pounds. Made of steel. Probably the only thing I can do there is remove some of the material, but I got to be very careful. This is part of the pressure system or the pressure vessel of the rifle. You don't want to mess with that area. The other items or sub-assemblies here get pretty light. For example, like the trigger assembly over here. Not a lot I can probably do with that. If I did, it would make it unreliable, if not dangerous. Where the scope rail, I can definitely do a lot of machining on that. The bolt assembly, not a lot I can do there. Maybe a little bit of machining on the bolt, and maybe something I've got an idea on the handle. The grip, we could just buy a really lightweight grip. I think, and of course the handguard, I actually have a design that I want to do for this that'll lighten it up significantly. So anyways, there you go. But by the way, before one of you calculator jockeys writes in and goes, hey man, I added all these up and they didn't add up to 10.3 pounds. That's right, they didn't. Here's what we had before was 10.30 pounds that you saw. That was on my floor mailing scale, digital mailing scale. That is only counting 0.05 of a pound, in increments of 0.05 of a pound. When I weighed all these parts, I did it on this digital, very accurate countertop scale, which is good for 0.006, counts in increments of 0.006 of a pound, or 0.1 of an ounce. When you add all these up, here you get 10.227 pounds. So that is actually going to be because of the accuracy. That table one is more accurate. So you might ask, well, why didn't you put the whole rifle on the table one? Well, it's only good to like 4 pounds total, so I couldn't do it. So anyways, what that means is our new final weight for the rifle is 10.227 pounds. So what we'll do from here on out is I'm going to pick each assembly, work on them, try to lose as much weight as we can. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to work on the receiver and try and drop some weight off this rather large steel object. The receiver does include some other sub items. I think what I'm going to do on the bolt that holds this, I'll call it a lug. I'm going to kind of buy that out of titanium. That I am not going to modify or remove material because it is a kind of a recoil lug. That to me is a lot of force. That's attaching the receiver to the lower assembly. I'm not going to touch that. This is just what I'm calling a lock plate that holds the barrel nut. When you adjust the barrel, it just keeps it from backing out with these teeth. So not a lot going on there. I'm going to remove some material from that. And on this receiver, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 1/2 inch end mill and I'm going to make a series of 1/2 inch, by the way, ball end mill, and make a series of slots on the receiver, kind of like a fluting. However, there is a zone here. I'm going to make a circle here that I am going to consider the no-go zone. So everything here is no-go. This is part of where your barrel goes on, where the locking lugs are for the bolt. This is performing a lot of strength to hold everything together. Everything behind this is, I'm not going to say along for the ride, but it is just guiding the bolt, holding the lower assembly on, the buttstock, things like that. This is where all the magic happens. So I am not going to touch this area. But what I am going to do is I think I'm going to make a flute there. I'll make a flute here. This is all on where the scope rail mounts. One there. I'll do the same on the bottom. I'll put a flute along there. A little mini flute there. Interrupted flute. Make sure you don't machine off your serial number. Bad. They will come a-knocking. And I think I might do something on the end here as well. And we'll take a look at it after that and see what we got. So let's go ahead and weigh just the receiver to see where we're at. I'd be interested to find out just on the receiver what we've got. All right, so we've got 19.8 ounces. So let's take it over to the mill and see what happens when we do that work. One thing I want to do before we start machining on this Ruger Precision receiver is I want to check it for straightness. I want to see how straight it is now before we start cutting into it, because there is a chance when we cut into this, we relieve it in a way that maybe the receiver deforms. I'm not sure. This material is probably a 4140 chromoly, heat treated, coated, all that good stuff that makes it great for a receiver. But there is a chance that we relieve it and it bends or moves or relaxes in a different direction. So I'm not sure. So right now I've got my indicator on here set at 0, as you can see here, and we're going to drag it across the top of this surface and see what this indicator does. And I'm lazy, so I'm going to use my motorized X table. Here we go. As you can see, we are now at the other end of this receiver and we are still at 0. So this is pretty flat. Now, one thing I want to say is if you watch that fast motion video, I'm going to go back to the middle and show you what you saw in that. Right about in the middle here, we actually are dipping down a thou. So take note of that. That's not a big deal. That's not a bad thing. I mean, a thousandths inch within dip, within say 7 inches, that's not a big deal, but just to be noted. But regardless, from end to end, we are holding 0. So after we do the machining, we'll measure it again and see what happened. All right, here we are making our flutes on the receiver. And I already did a test one here. Wanted to do that off camera, make sure I had everything set up right. Using a carbide 2-flute 1/2-inch ball end mill to move along the top of this receiver. I'm going down about 80 thousandths of an inch, and I am just eyeballing it based off these mounting holes for the scope. I am just making sure I don't roll into them. So let me show you one of these cuts. Interestingly enough, the steel is actually not that hard. This is a nice carbide end mill. I'm gonna make, which does help, I'm going to do a shallow pass here, and like I said, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm going to where I'm just before that mount hole, and then I start moving across. All right, that looks pretty darn good. We've got 2 of our flutes done. Like I said, I'm going to do another one here and then a little stubby guy there. I will be rolling this and doing some of the other surfaces. So let me go ahead and do those, and then I'll show you what we got. All right, we've done all the cutting on the receiver, all the fluting, put it back in the vise, indicated to 0, and let's see how straight the receiver stayed. All right, it is about 1/4 of a thou difference, which is probably just in the setup, to be honest with you. That's almost nothing. That is nothing. Let's take a look in the middle. I'd be curious to see if we have that drop again. Yep, and we do. About 3/4 of a thou drop in the middle. So I was looking for, tens of thousandths in movement if this bowed or arced or bananaed in some way, and it is not. So anyways, the receiver is still straight as it was. Back at the bench here, and as you can see, I have done a lot of fluting on this receiver. As you notice, I did not do any fluting on the end that does all the heavy lifting, where the lugs and the bolt and the barrel all interface. But everything else, where I thought we could get away with it, I fluted it. The material was not that hard. It was actually very easy to machine and gave a very nice finish. So that is done. Let's go ahead and put him on the scale. Did not change this bracket. This is the bolt catch I took out while I was machining it. This is that capturing bracket or locking bracket that I talked about before. I did machine out this pocket right there just to lighten it up. And the bolt before that held that locking bracket in was steel. I replaced it with a titanium one. So at the end of the day, we end up with 19.4 ounces. I've already done the math for you. So we were at 1.325 pounds on this assembly. We are now at 1.213 pounds. That is a savings or removal of material worth 0.112 pounds or 1.8 ounces. I am very happy with that. To go over a tenth of a pound, considering we did not have a lot to work with, I'm very happy. It would have been nice to maybe round it up to 2 ounce savings, but at 1.8 ounces saved, I think this is a great start to making this Ruger Precision Rifle a kick-ass lightweight hunting rifle. So let's move on to the next assembly.